And he was also asked, what's the game that keeps you up at night?
The Super Bowl that he lost.
And he said, the Super Bowl that I lost to Tom Brady, the man who will be calling the game, which will be like a spiritual reminder every play he has that Tom Brady's in the house. He has to win this game.
Welcome to the NFL on Fox podcast presented by Verizon. NFL powered by Verizon 5G. I am your host, Dave Helman. It is the day before the Super Bowl. We are creeping closer and closer. Thank you for hopping on with us for one last look at this matchup. And I'm doing it with a little bit of help. If you're watching, you can see I'm still right here on Bourbon Street. And after a full season of doing this over Zoom, I'm with my friend Henry McKenna. I'm glad that with one more game to go, we get to actually do this in person instead of over Wi-Fi.
I'm like pumped. I'm ready. Like I want to do the Tom Brady let's go.
The LFG player of the game, if you will.
Yeah, of course. But
so, spoiler alert, this is how media works these days. We are recording this on a Friday night. You're listening to it on Saturday, wherever you are. But here where Henry and I are, it is Friday night before the Super Bowl. The sun is going down on Bourbon Street. And this is the first time, okay, let me be clear. It's been fun all week. There's all kinds of celebrities and players in town, and there's parties, and there's fun stuff going on. But I'm looking out on Bourbon Street right now, and I see Kelly green everywhere, and I'm seeing Chiefs jerseys. And it's really, for the first time for me, starting to feel like the biggest game of the year is on deck. Like, the fans are getting in town, and it really feels like the tension and the excitement is ramped up a little bit here.
yeah, walking over here from the hotel. So we're staying on the other side of Bourbon Street. The set's on what I believe is the east side, right? Mm-hmm. And our hotel's on the west. And so I've done this walk many times in being here since Monday, and it's full. Bourbon Street is full right now. It's been kind of vacant, I would say, almost.
It's like I said, there are people here, but for a lot of this week, it's people that are here for work. It's people like you and me. It's players that are endorsing things. Now,
Chiefs Kingdom, they're here.
Everybody is here, and you can feel it.
Eagles Mafia. I don't think that's what they call themselves.
No, that's a different one. What do they call?
Well, that's why I was like, let's just call them Eagles Mafia.
Go Birds.
Fly Eagles fly.
Yeah, Josh knows. Yeah. Go Birds.
Go Birds. Yeah.
So, you mentioned you've been here since Monday.
Yeah.
You've gotten to do a lot of wild stuff. I mean, you've been following the Chiefs all week. I just learned this, but you've also been following our correspondent Jameis Winston as well, who, with all due respect to Patrick Mahomes and Saquon Barkley, I'm pretty sure Jameis is like the biggest winner of Super Bowl week. Just the amount of stuff that he's done and the amount of feedback he's gotten off of it.
Yeah, as he likes to say, Fox correspondent Jameis Winston.
What's your favorite color?
What's your favorite color? Yeah, so Jameis is he killed it. I mean, I got to track him for just a written project that I'm doing for foxsports.com. So, hopefully listeners will check out the story if they're curious about Jameis's week. But he took us along, things that he decided for us to do, and things that the producers decided for us to do. Cafe Du Monde was a highlight. He had a beignet eating competition with whoever was there and decided that wanted to compete against him.
I think at this, I got the feeling that after a certain point, he was just making content with whoever he saw.
Oh, yeah. You just put him out into the wild of New Orleans, and he was ready to entertain.
Rubbing powdered sugar under his eyes.
Right. For the competition. Black. Well, yeah, you need your eye black for the
that's gonna be a lasting image of Super Bowl 59 week for me.
Yeah. What else did he do? I mean, people have probably seen by now the pedicab that he hijacked and started singing "I Believe I Can Fly."
Crashed it into like a mule and buggy, if I remember correctly.
Into a horse buggy. What else happened? I mean, I think the a little behind the scenes stuff too. Like, he's working really hard to do that. I think organically he's a media personality he's a personality who's comfortable in front of cameras. But then, like, he's also a quarterback in like his brain forever. Not to say that he won't be a quarterback next year, but at the end of opening night when he was, doing his theatrics, asking players questions, he goes to our producers afterwards and he says, all right, like, let's watch the film. Now, mind you, it's basically like the same time as Monday Night Football has just ended. It's like almost midnight, and he wants to review the film. He wants to figure out how he can be a better personality for the rest of the week. So again, that's like football. That's like quarterback brain, and like he wants to watch the film. He wants to know. He wants a coach to tell him how to get better, and he's like a very sweet and constant personality.
If Kellen Moore finishes this game, regardless of whether the Eagles win or lose, like if he is the Saints head coach on Monday, the quickest way he could curry favor with a very agitated Saints fan base would be to bring Jameis Winston back to the roster, even if it's like just to be the backup or, be the fill-in if Derek Carr gets hurt. I've like every Uber I've gotten in the city of New Orleans, first of all, Saints fans, shockingly, really pissed off. And they love Jameis Winston, and they would love to see him back. So that's what I have my eye on. If Kellen Moore is hired by the Saints in short order, that's just an easy win to start off your Saints career.
Strong public relations move, but also a practical one. I mean, maybe. I think you could put him in competition with Derek Carr. The Derek Carr contract is cemented.
It's not great. Your Derek Carr is the Saints quarterback in 2025 at the very least.
So the one thing about Jameis that is he's adamant about is that he wants to be QB1 next year. So or at least in a position where he can be QB1. So does he end up in New York with Brian Daboll and the Giants?
I said that earlier this week.
Yeah,
Giants makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe somewhere where you step in, at the very least, like you said, have a chance to compete.
And Cleveland, I mean, go back to Cleveland. He really seems to like Cleveland. Deshaun Watson, my take on Deshaun Watson, which is that he's no longer an NFL quarterback. And given that he hurt his Achilles again,
it kind of seems like the Browns are, obviously they can't get away from that contract, but the Browns are preparing for him to not have him be their quarterback.
Right. It's a tough spot for Jameis. He would be QB1, but he talked about on Fox Sports 1 today with LaShawn McCoy LaShawn was like, I want to see you become the next Baker Mayfield. I want to see you become the next Sam Darnold. And eventually Jameis said, yes, that's what I want for myself too. So I don't think that's not exactly, going back to the Browns and working with Kevin Stefanski for another year.
Rooting for Jameis, mainly because if he leaves football and gets started in media, he's better at this than we are. So Jameis, just keep doing what you're doing, bud. I think this was a great first step toward wherever you're headed in 2025. Let's talk about Super Bowl 59. And right off the jump, I was thinking about this because I've been here on set. We're interviewing all these great people. There's all this crazy stuff going on. It's easy to forget about the rhythm of game week. Like the Chiefs and the Eagles are still practicing every single day. The Eagles are at the Saints facility. The Chiefs are uptown at Tulane. And so I just wanted to catch up on like the latest. There's not much, but I think it's worth noting. So Jalen Carter been dealing with an illness that kind of seems like it's been going around New Orleans, honestly. But he sounds like he's fully good to go for this game. And it sounds like, I don't know what his role is going to look like, but it sounds like Brandon Graham is going to be available. Like they still have to activate him off injured reserve, but he practiced this week, tore his triceps in that Sunday night game against the Rams. Even if it's just like third downs, the fact that Brandon Graham could be available in this game is incredible.
Yeah. I wonder if for Brandon Graham, they give him snaps in each quarter to keep him mentally there, physically there. And then maybe if those snaps go well, fourth quarter he starts to see some more important situational work. But yeah, that's always tricky. Like the Bills were dealing with Von Miller last year and dealing with that snap count thing. And it's like, okay, well, if a guy's not totally ready and he might be our best player at the position throughout the year, if he's healthy, can we really trust him in the biggest game of the year when we don't know for sure that is?
Well, and like the boring reality that we don't talk enough about too is if you're going to get a jersey on game day and you're not a starter, then like you got to play teams.
Right.
What can you do for us on punt? What can you do for us on kickoff?
The game day
and
roster.
and that's not Brandon Graham. So like the Eagles are going to have to feel pretty confident that he can give them some legitimate juice to make him active for this game. But as an Eagles coach, as an Eagles fan, like how could you not want him available? I'm just thinking about the fact that he won them Super Bowl 52. Like he made the strip sack on Tom Brady that put the Eagles in control of that game. I want that available, even if it's like 8 snaps the entire game. If one of them is 3rd and 9 in the 4th quarter of a Super Bowl, sign me the hell up for it. I'm in.
Yeah. I mean, big time players make big plays in big time moments, or whatever the expression is. So, but that is him.
That's Stitch? Is that the TikTok guy? I think he was here, by the way.
I feel like everybody says that expression.
Okay.
Coaches
ignore me. I'm trying to relate to the youth.
Yeah, right.
Ignore me. It's fine.
But but that's what everybody's been saying about Patrick Mahomes this week, obviously, and that's I think you need a foil for him on the other side of the ball. More realistically, it's probably not Brandon Graham. Maybe it's Quinyon Mitchell, maybe it's Jalen Carter, but anybody helps against the greatest football player in the world.
As far as like breaking news with this game, that's mostly it. Chiefs punter Matt Araiza was also dealing with an illness, but it sounds like he's going to be good to go. Chiefs injury report surprisingly small. Everybody's like practicing full, so we're getting the best versions of these teams, it looks like, on Sunday. So let's talk about it. And you mentioned Patrick Mahomes. I don't know what else there is to say about the guy, but I'm curious. You've been with the Chiefs this week. What strikes you most about his demeanor as he gets set to do this and potentially accomplish something nobody has in the Super Bowl era?
Yeah, it's business. I mean, it really is. But I was writing a lot about situational football this week, but in the most interesting way possible, because situational football is such a nothing buzzword. So I was focusing on like his 4th down work. I was talking to him about why that down has been so effective for him, for the Chiefs offense in general, and 3rd down in the same way. Their 3rd down percentage is up, I believe, 10% from last year. That's substantial. Like that is a really large and hugely important down for him to make that kind of improvement, for his whole offense to make that kind of improvement. And we don't really think about that offense making that level of improvement because we've sort of talked them down so much. But, you and I have been talking a great deal over the last few weeks, Dave, that like this offense is really on the upswing. They've really improved over the last, let's say 2 months. And so 4th down's been a big part of that. 3rd down's been a big part of that. And in talking to the Chiefs coaches as well about that, they talked about, for example, the Chiefs practice on Monday, 2-minute drill, red zone, and 3rd and 4th down. They start their week with what they see
as
typically
an end of the week activity.
Exactly. Yeah. So most football teams will save the situational work for the end of week. The Chiefs take what they consider the most important work of the week and they put it at the top of the week, right? Just like, journalists, when we think of the most important information, we put it right at the top of the article. They're doing a similar philosophy. It just shows how they see the work. Another little tidbit I learned this week, the Chiefs run 15 play drives during training camp, every day. There's a drill.
No wonder they're so good at it.
Yeah, right. And it used to be a conditioning thing where they used to run the 15 play drive to get guys into shape, both mentally and physically, because obviously you're going to be running a lot in that situation, but it's also tasking and trying on the mind. And so, you if you're going to have to play 60 minutes, sometimes, you want to practice 80 minutes to make sure you can get there to those 60 minutes. So these 15 play drives that they run in training camp, they're actually so hard that they stop doing them once the season starts. But
leave that in August, guys.
Right.
Yeah, leave that for the conditioning program.
Yeah. But I think that's again, it goes to show that they're really thinking about situations. They're really thinking about how they're going to win games this year. And that starts on Monday when they work on 2-minute drill, when they work on 4th down and 3rd down. And that starts in training camp when they're running these long drives.
You've been cranking stuff out. I encourage you, please go find everything Henry and our other writer here, Greg Allman, as well, have been just cranking work out on foxsports.com. Please go find it. You wrote a great story about how good Mahomes is in situational football, high leverage, third, fourth down. You also, and it leads me to this, you wrote a story about we give the Chiefs so much credit for trick plays and fun plays and pulling out the right plays at the right time. And it's such a huge element in every Chiefs Super Bowl win. Whether, like, if you want to go back to Corn Dog, the first time that we played this game between the Chiefs and Eagles, the Mecole Hardman game winner last year on the goal line. I assume that's part of it too, is getting those plays exactly right and knowing the exact right time to pull them out.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking to Chad Henne last week, former Chiefs quarterback, and Chad told me, there's sort of this running myth among Kansas City Chiefs fans, maybe even among all NFL fans, really, that the Chiefs hold on to their best plays, both trick plays and, like, again, situational plays. They hold on to those plays until the end of the season or the postseason. I was talking to some of the Chiefs media being like, hey, do you think this is true? And they were like, nah, there's no way. Guess what? I talked to Chad Henne about it. Chad was like, they absolutely do that. They hold on to their best plays. They wait for those trick plays to pull them out at the right moment, to pull them out in big playoff games, the AFC Championship game, the Super Bowl. Like, now is the time for us to see these plays that Andy Reid has been holding on to. I'm not sure that the Chiefs, like, we've seen a lot of narrow victories. I don't know how much the NFL has really tested the Chiefs this year. And I think a part of the reflection of that is we haven't seen as much creativity from Andy Reid. And I wonder if it's just because, like, I mean, a part of it's their identity. Like, I don't want to overplay this, but a part of it is, I think, he's been holding on. I would be shocked is what I'm getting at if you don't see a trick player.
Are you trying to suggest to me right now that the Chiefs, who have pulled like 2/3 of their wins out of the fire this year, are just rope-a-doping everybody?
They're kind of holding out on us. Like, they really are, I swear. And, like, okay, one piece of proof of this is that the number one play on Andy Reid's call sheet during the AFC Championship game was the Samaje Perine check down in the flat that he used on that third down
to clinch the game.
Now, you would think at this point of the game that he would have used his very best play, right? Because it's been close all game. The Bills had the lead at one point, more than one point, I think. I'm blanking, but basically, at a game that tight, right? Like, it takes tremendous discipline not to use your very best play, and that's what he had waiting for him at the end of the game. Is that check down to Samaje Perine? They pick up the first down, and there they are, off to the races into the Super Bowl. So, like, it just shows that this guy he's operating at a different level. He can trust his quarterback to get him out of so many different things. He can trust his defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, to get out, and his special teams coordinator, who's also his assistant head coach, Dave Tobe, guy that doesn't get a lot of shout outs, but is one of the smartest special teams minds in the game. So,
stat that jumps off the page to me about this game: Chiefs are 70% on fourth down this year, 14 of 20. Just honestly, it's a small number to me, like only 20 fourth down conversion attempts, but that's how efficient they are, that they only get in that position 20 times all year.
Right.
Eagles, 73%, 22 of 30. So both more than willing to do it, and both efficient enough that they don't always have to. Like, I expect to see a lot of sustained drives in this game. Like, Super Bowls are always going to be long. That's just what this game has become. But this feels like it could be a very fast-moving Super Bowl because that's how these two teams want to play football.
Yeah, and we'll see lots of running the football. I mean, Saquon Barkley exists. We haven't gotten to him yet, but that's what happens when you bring me on the show. I just want to talk about quarterbacks the entire time. That's kind of my world this year.
That's been the theme for the year. Yeah, it's okay, though. This is a great matchup to focus on quarterbacks.
Right,
so.
Yes. And Jalen Hurts we haven't talked about yet, too, but, like, a fascinating story in his own right. Saquon's going to run the ball a lot. Let's not lose sight of the run game while we're talking about it. Kareem Hunt, honestly, has probably been a better runner than Isaiah Pacheco, who
since he came back from injury. Yeah,
Pacheco, came into the season as RB1, but Hunt might look better than Pacheco, I would say. Either way, it'll probably be a 1-2 punch with the two of them. Both teams, obviously the Eagles more than the Chiefs. Both teams like to control this game with the run. So in that sense, right, like with the clock running on the run game, we'll see the game sort of move quickly, but also probably see explosive play because Saquon, as we saw in the NFC Championship game, probably going to make a big one on the ground too.
I'm curious because the Chiefs' stats will tell you that he's not.
Fair.
I mean, they've been so good at limiting explosives, and that's another huge one. Is of course, I mean, he's going to get his yards, right? We know that. I don't know how you shut down Saquon Barkley, but if there's a team that can keep him from having that 40, 50, 60-yard run, the season suggests it's the Chiefs, or do you think there is a defense capable of doing that? Because here over the home stretch and in the playoffs, it has not happened.
Yeah, no, I think the Chiefs defense, like anyone, will probably struggle with Saquon. And like you're saying, if the Chiefs are going to win, the way to do it is it's almost like playing against Tyreek, in that same way in a passing situation where, if you might be able to beat, let's think either of the Chiefs when they had Tyreek or the Dolphins now that they have him, is like, okay, maybe you can beat those teams. Like if you keep Tyreek's catches under longest of 30 yards sort of situation or longest of 25. So it could be a similar philosophy where it's like, okay, we'll let Saquon eat, but we don't want to let him take a huge bite. And so maybe that's sort of the philosophy. And then, the other thing about this ground game, this is a thing I did some reporting on, is like the tush push, right? It's actually, it's a play that hasn't been as effective this year. It's actually down. Their conversion percentage is down 10% to 82% this year. Now that was skewed a little bit by earlier in the season. Cam Jurgens was kind of getting the hang of it. Some of the fumbled exchanges. It wasn't looking as highly efficient as it was with Jason Kelce, but now it's looking better. And when I asked Steve Spagnuolo, hey, can this play be stopped? He said, I really don't think so. So we'll see how that works out. But I think it's a crucial play.
That's a very interesting point. I noted that. I mean, 92% to 82% from last year to this year is a significant drop, but you're so right. I mean, Cam Jurgens has gotten better as the season has gone along. I don't know if you're going to get that heroic 4th and short performance from the Chiefs in this game that we saw against Buffalo. I think Steve was quoted in your story as saying, like, you probably just need to stay out of that situation, which, but so few teams are able to do it.
Right. Yeah, it's the obvious way to not have to defend the tush push is to keep it from, a 1-yard play, but that's just not like like we just said, if you're going to try and keep Saquon from getting his 30-yard to 50 to 60-yard plays, then he's probably still going to get 4 yards carry. And then, where are you on third down? You're at 3rd and 2. That's the math.
Can I interest you in something I picked up from our friends at Next Gen Stats that
always
I absolutely loved?
Yeah.
This postseason, Jalen Hurts throwing outside the numbers. 27 of 34, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Like rightfully so. Rightfully so, Jalen Hurts has caught some flack this year. The Eagles' passing game has not been as explosive as you would prefer. It's not been consistent from week to week. They weren't consistent at times during these playoffs. But at the end of the day, even if it's looked ugly against Green Bay and in the snowstorm against the Rams, it's been highly efficient. And that's the other piece of this is Jalen Hurts, I don't think needs to be Superman. But if you make 2 or 3 throws like that, I mean, the one that's going to stick with us forever is the 4th down against Washington in the NFC Championship game. You make 2 throws in high leverage moments like that, I don't know if the final stat sheet even matters. He just needs to make those 2, 3 clutch plays in those situations. And I was surprised to see how much the numbers bear that out.
Yeah, situational football, baby.
I mean, both of these teams are so excellent at it.
Yeah. And like you would see that, throughout the year from Jalen Hurts, not consistently necessarily, but like 20 of 25, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers. That was actually after the first 4 week when he had, I think, 7 turnovers in 4 games.
Yeah.
But that was like the most uncharacteristic, unlike Jalen Hurts, sequence of games that we've ever seen, and they cleaned it up. over the course of the year, all of a sudden I think he had 3 turnovers in his last 10 games or something, and realized what his role was in the offense. Here's another stat for you. Jalen Hurts has the 12th best winning percentage in the history of NFL quarterbacks. He's right behind Peyton Manning and Joe Montana. Now that is, to me, ridiculous, because like we don't think of Jalen Hurts as being this like elite superlative quarterback, and I am kind of like one of the biggest proponents that QB wins are a quarterback stat, that they are a stat that we should consider, and that like legitimizes in my mind Jalen Hurts as being an elite quarterback.
Here's all right. Let's get into it because it's a fascinating topic. I don't think wins are a quarterback stat. We've been over this.
Yeah,
we do this every week. But you're right. So I can sit here and I can pick apart Jalen Hurts' game, the consistency. Not recently, but you have issues with ball security at times, accuracy, and obviously, look, the bottom line is that it's easier to second guess when you have this supporting cast, when you have this amazing offensive line, the best running back in football, the best receiver duo in football, a quality tight end. It's easy to fall back on the idea of like, okay, how much of the load are you pulling? But guess what? This is where I make Eagles fans happy again. At the end of the day, what the hell does that matter? Because, okay, 12th most in win percentage, that number honestly blows my mind a little bit. I wasn't ready for that. Already an All-Pro, already an MVP candidate a couple years ago. And if you win this game, we can't say stopped, but you have at least halted for the moment this Chiefs onslaught and taken down the unanimously agreed upon best quarterback walking the planet. I mean, you absolutely have to give Jalen Hurts a hell of a lot of flowers if he accomplishes that, regardless of how talented his offense is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the stats weren't there this year, which is why I think people are not on this bandwagon, maybe yet, maybe ever. But like, look, I mean, guess who just won MVP? Like Josh Allen did not. I think maybe we're starting to embrace the idea that stats matter. Stats don't tell the whole story. Lamar, and also like Lamar, I'm not going to.
While we're talking about, please take your bow and your victory lap
right.
for correctly predicting NFL MVP.
By all means, yeah. I mean, I was on the Josh Allen train from preseason. I was on the Josh Allen at midseason. I was at the Josh Allen train.
I meant to do that off the top. I'm
Postseason.
so sorry.
Yeah,
You deserve that moment in the sun.
That's all right. I mean, Josh Allen deserves that moment in the sun. But look, Lamar had the stats this year. Like, it was actually like now that Josh Allen has won, I get to admit I actually had some doubts about the Josh Allen. Like when the All Pro selection came out, I was like,
that was half of my reason.
Yeah, I was like,
when you like the first team All Pro quarterback has been the MVP,
right?
However many years going back to the 80s.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, a very worthy winner. I'm not mad about it at all, but it was a little surprising.
Yeah. So, but if we're talking about quarterback value and we're thinking about, how do we measure eliteness in what I believe to be a fast changing NFL, where like 5 years ago, the high flying electric offenses were really a measurable way to, I think, get to the Super Bowl. Like our defenses still won championships, but I think like it was like, think about how the Chiefs are constructed. It's not a coincidence that Pat Mahomes had kind of his worst season, but the run game helped them get there, and a really strong defense did too. Between how the rules are going and how contracts are going, when you're building a team and you're thinking creatively about how to do it, sometimes not paying receivers actually can help with the right quarterback in place. So that's the case of the Chiefs. But ultimately, like, we're seeing unusual offenses make the championship game in some ways, and not necessarily the most prolific quarterbacks. And so that's, I think, what I'm trying to say is there's like almost like a reverse correlation but with the case of Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, of like, they're actually kind of having their worst season from a numbers standpoint. They're actually kind of having their best season from a win standpoint.
I think we're seeing an interesting change, because like you go back to, I think of Russell Wilson with the Seahawks, and like the easiest way to identify a contender was like find the quarterback quickly on a rookie deal, build everything around him while he's cheap, worry about how much all of that costs later, and you'll start losing pieces. And like it was a very reliable schedule for a team for a long time. And now, granted, the salary cap means that that's still going to be reality for a lot of teams, but look at this Eagles team. Look at how much they're paying to how many different guys and how they're still here and how they are able to make it work. And that's I'll point out my own hypocrisy for a second, and everyone's hypocrisy, because the goal is to build the best team possible. And that is what the Philadelphia Eagles have done. That is why they are here. Howie Roseman had an incredible offseason. Zach Bond nailing everything in the draft. Saquon Barkley, I can't believe I said him third. But then at the same time, we want to penalize Jalen Hurts because the Eagles have done their job by surrounding him with talent. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what every team in the NFL should be trying to do. And the Eagles have found a way to do it. And frankly, I don't want to hear this crap from other teams that are like, well, if you pay the quarterback X amount of money, then you don't get to have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Bullshit. They're about to play on Sunday night. We're going to watch it happen. So I think we're seeing some interesting changes here where teams are figuring out how to cope with having a $45, $55 million quarterback. And it is certainly not Jalen Hurts' fault that the Eagles are navigating that arguably better than anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni talked about it, right? Like, so in the defense again of Jalen Hurts' eliteness, question mark, is Sirianni was like, all right, well, like, you can't, like, let's look at the teams that can actually win a championship without anyone. And I think he was kind of pointing at Josh Allen's Bills not having anyone, right? Like, I don't think it was, maybe it was like pretty intentional, where Sirianni was like, there are a lot of great quarterbacks out there. The ones that don't have any guys are the ones that are not in the Super Bowl, because Patrick Mahomes, as much as we can malign the receiving corps, has Travis Kelce. He has always had Travis Kelce. Think about that. Like, that's a meaningful pass catcher to quarterback relationship. Travis Kelce has been one of the best pass catchers, including receivers, in the NFL for basically Patrick Mahomes' entire career.
He also has the most elite interior offensive line in football.
Yeah.
Like two amazing guards, one of whom is playing left tackle because he's that good.
Right.
Best center in football. And then obviously the Chiefs aren't as star-studded, but you cannot deny that the Chiefs try to give Mahomes what he needs. I mean, you trade away Tyreek Hill because of financial realities, but since then, you're going and getting a Pro Bowl receiver in Hollywood Brown. You're trading for a Pro Bowl receiver in DeAndre Hopkins. It's not as flashy or as expensive as what the Eagles do, but the effort is clearly there.
Right. So that's Sirianni's point, is like, okay, you show me a truly great quarterback in this league, you're gonna show me a truly elite pass catcher that's right there alongside him. And that's how the Eagles have built their team. And I think, like, probably down the line, it's how they're going to keep building their team.
I'm so glad that you said that. It's a perfect segue to another story that you wrote, which we're getting so far ahead of ourselves here because the Eagles have to win this game first.
But this is the fun part about Super Bowl week. We've been talking about these teams for 2 weeks. Let's go. Let's do it.
So you wrote a story essentially saying, and I can see it because, all right, before you call us crazy, let's paint the picture. This is their third Super Bowl in 8 years.
Yes.
And their second in the last 3.
Yep.
They won 1. If they win Sunday, they would have won 2 in the last 8 years, made 2 in the last 3. Long story short, you hypothesized that if they win this game, we could see the Eagles launch a dynasty of their own.
Yeah. Look, what do you need for a dynasty? You need 3 parts. Step 1, it's quarterback. Okay. And we just talked about why I think Jalen Hurts might be the elite quarterback that no one's talking about. I think that like what I want to see to make that be true, and I'll start to die on that hill next year if he wins this Super Bowl. Okay. So, like, let's start there. Quarterback. So if he wins Sunday, then you've got it. Like, we know for a fact he has what it takes. Okay. Step 2, you need a coach. I talked about Jalen Hurts' winning percentage. Guess what Nick Sirianni's winning percentage is among active NFL coaches? It's first, number one, okay? Then you've got Howie Roseman. We just spent the last 15 minutes waxing poetic about how not only is he a master of talent acquisition and evaluation, he is a master of salary cap manipulation, okay? So that's why he can get all of these super talented players. That's why he gets the big names. Okay. A.J. Brown, when he acquired him, was one of the best receivers in the NFL. This wasn't like taking a swing on Zach Bond, which he also did, which shows a whole different set of skills, which is projecting a player out of his current role into an even bigger one. That's general management at its finest, but also taking a number one player, paying everything for him, and still making him better. That's excellent general management. Now, he doesn't have every excellent move being perfect. Bryce Huff was a big deal that they did
you're
this
there.
offseason.
Yeah, there are misses.
There's always
they
misses.
gave more money to Devin White than they did to Zach Bond.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's impregnable, but I think that he's showed us with different coaches, because we didn't even mention that Sirianni sort of earlier in this process wasn't even a part of the dynamic. It was Doug Peterson. That was when Nick Foles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Right.
That's how good Howie Roseman is. So if we have those three pieces in place, quarterback, coach, general manager, and we have faith in all three, which again, I think is still an if, to be clear, if they win the Super Bowl on Sunday. But if that happens, those three cement themselves as being very successful in basically the best ways that we measure things, which is winning championships and winning games. I think that launches an Eagles dynasty.
I mean, we are the definition of out over our skis right now.
Oh, baby, that's where I love to be.
But that's okay, because if you look at it, Jalen Hurts doesn't turn 27 until training camp. Saquon Barkley clearly has so much left in the tank. Half of the backbone of this Eagles roster is guys they've drafted within the last 3 years. We haven't seen the best football yet from Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. Am I missing anybody?
Yeah.
Got pieces of that offensive line that have just come in the last. I mean, Lane Johnson, I assume eventually will retire, but you get a few more years out of him. And you've got all of these other guys that can fill in. Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata aren't going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, I have to squint.
Right.
But I see your point, even if it's definitely premature.
They have cap space. They have 4 really good years of drafts. That's the other thing is like, we're not just talking about quarterback and coach and GM. Like, those are the 3 things that we really need to see sustained success, but to see success over the next few years too. It's not like they're the Saints or the 49ers and the general health of this entire roster is in major catastrophic failure. There's no need to do an even like minor rebuild over the next few years because of the health of these last 4 draft classes.
The way the Eagles do things, there will inevitably be a downturn.
Yeah.
Because they're aggressive. And it happened to them, right? Like, they made a couple bad choices after 2017. They had to tear it down. Not completely, but they had to step back, retool the team. But you know what? Being aggressive and being willing to spend money, they did it in about a year and a half.
Right.
So even if they Howie will make some wrong choices, because that's what being a general manager is. Even if that happens, you've got the pieces in place for that to not be a sustained downturn. So I get your point completely. Now, having said all of that, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like lightning's about to strike me, because we're talking about starting a dynasty while a team is going for a three-peat. So with that in mind,
the wood chipper, where the Eagles are going into the wood chipper, which is the team that has.
I mean, let's throw that out there too. Like the key. Well, that's not fair. A lot of the biggest pieces of what the Chiefs do well aren't going anywhere either. I mean, Travis Kelce, we'll see what happens with him. Patrick Mahomes is 29 freaking years old, which is terrifying to think about if he wins his 4th Super Bowl already on Sunday night. With that in mind, let's get to our picks. Let's put it out there to age terribly or well. One more prediction before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Who you got?
Give me the Chiefs. And give me 25-23 final score. I think ultimately it's going to be another narrow victory. I think the Vegas line is right there on 1.5. And I think the Chiefs, as I said, have been preparing for 2 weeks now on how to win a narrow game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Patrick Mahomes is zoned in on, he talked about one thing I forgot to say about fourth down. He thinks of fourth down as a single play version of a playoff game. That's why they're so good at converting fourth downs, is because he never loses playoff games. And he was also asked, what's the game that keeps you up at night?
The Super Bowl that he lost.
And he said, the Super Bowl that I lost to Tom Brady, the man who will be calling the game, which will be like a spiritual reminder every play he has that Tom Brady's in the house. He has to win this game. No, but look, I just think the Chiefs are going to win it. Like they have so much command. They have so much control over games. And as much as I made all of the case that the Eagles do have what they need to potentially be a dynasty, if they win, I do think the Chiefs do win.
You have Mahomes as your MVP.
Give me Mahomes as the MVP.
For a fourth time,
yeah,
all 4 of their wins would have him winning MVP.
No, didn't Nick Bolton win?
No, Mahomes won it when they beat the Eagles. Bolton had a shot.
Okay, yeah.
Bolton did have the touchdown, and he had another one called back. But Mahomes has been MVP of every Super Bowl the Chiefs have won.
Yep.
Which it would not surprise me if it happens again. I've been conflicted for 2 weeks. Not conflicted, because I feel confident in my pick. But, I've been saying this on the show. You're probably tired of hearing me say it. I think the Eagles are a quote-unquote better team. I feel better about that collection of talent. I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay.
I'm taking the Chiefs to win 28-27. And I don't have something for you other than Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and coming up in these high leverage situations. And I can just imagine Eagles are leading 27-25 with 2 minutes and 58 seconds to play. Chiefs get the ball, and lo and behold, they kick a field goal as time expires the way that they do. Mahomes picks up a 3rd and 6 by running for 7 yards and getting out of an ankle tackle at the 5 yards down the field, because that's what the Kansas City Chiefs do, and I think they will do it again. I've got Travis Kelce as my MVP for no reason other than because I think it's fun. I think this could at least potentially be his last game, especially if they win. So what better way to, go out with 6 catches for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, something crazy like that. There's always, in every dynasty, there is a game where the quarterback doesn't win MVP. Deion Branch won an MVP for the Patriots one time. Julian Edelman, obviously, in 2018. This will be the Travis Kelce MVP game.
I kind of like the Travis Kelce MVP game as well, because I've been talking about how they're holding out on us from a trick play standpoint. If Andy Reid has been holding out on us with a trick play, that it's probably Travis Kelce throwing a touchdown. He was a high school quarterback. Don't you think that they've been waiting to give him maybe it's a...
Can't you imagine? That's such a great point. The red zone stuff that they've done with Travis his whole career, the shovel passes and all that good stuff. You build a throw off of that.
Yeah.
I feel really good. God, I hope we get to clip this out on Sunday night and post it for everybody to see. I feel really good about that prediction. I feel really good that this is going to be another classic. I've been saying it. I know people are they don't want a rematch. This is going to be a banger of a game. I know the teams are familiar, but I think that's part of what will make it so good. I think there's a level of familiarity here that's going to lead to another classic.
Yep. Like you said, we've got the Eagles, who are the best and most talented team in the league from a rostering standpoint, really from 1 to 53. And then you've got the then you have the Chiefs with the best quarterback in the league, the greatest quarterback in the sort of active in the league. And the same is true of the coach.
You can't put it better than that. Whatever happens, you will be there to take it all in. I'm guessing we'll be chatting with you about it. I'm excited, man. We made it. No more talk, no more previewing. We started in September. We got the Super Bowl on deck. That does it for the show. We will be back on Monday. We will have a champion. Do the Chiefs get their three-peat? Do they make NFL history, or do the Eagles take down the king? Looking forward to it. I hope you are too. I hope your Super Bowl party is amazing. I hope you drop some of these nuggets on your friends while you're chatting about it. Cannot wait. Henry, this was fun, man. I'll talk to you soon, and we will see y'all on Monday. Make sure you're subscribed on the feed, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your pods. We will be there for you on Monday to talk all things Super Bowl 59. Thank y'all so much. We'll chat with you real soon.